Hello fans of AutoTalk.com, it is I, Christian Moe again. Let's do a driving review. This week we are in the all-new 2016 Mazda Miata.
The 2016 MX-5 Miata is not only loaded with fancy Skyactiv technology, but it's also loaded with the most aggressive design the nameplate has ever seen. The new nose is angry and snarling with a large grille and sharp angular headlights, and then black inset fog lamps and a black nose splitter up the visual punch even more. Moving to the side, you have the black painted 17-inch BBS forged alloy wheels wrapped around the bright red Brembo brake calipers. Despite all these go-faster touches, the profile is still very smooth and very elegant. The rear bumper is taut and small to keep weight and size down, but it is the least attractive part of the car. The taillights are poorly proportioned, and the Miata just seems to end abruptly. But at least touches like the black lip spoiler keep things interesting. Overall, the new 2016 Miata is easily the most attractive roadster the company has ever produced.
The interior of the new Miata is the best and nicest of any Miata to date, and that's for a lot of reasons. Firstly, it just looks the best. They have all kinds of nice new sort of luxury visual features in this car that you didn't get before. The way this dash is sculpted has multiple levels, nice points, it looks great. You've got multiple textures. There's a different texture here and a different texture here and a different texture down here. It all sort of blends together nicely. It looks great. You have this nice steering wheel. It's a little thinner than I would prefer, but it's covered in a nice leather with red contrast stitching. You have real metal here in the middle. Just looks great. You've got nice chrome trim rings around all the gauges. They look fantastic. And then here on the door, the top of your door panel is painted the same color as the exterior of the car. For us, it's that beautiful ceramic metallic. I've got this nice sort of satin metal door handle. I've got a little plastic piece that looks like carbon fiber down here. Of course, I have leather with the little metallic burgundy sort of stitching that runs down the side. Nice leather shift knob, nice leather e-brake boot, leather shift boot. And of course, up here in the front, I've got a nice big screen. It's about 7 inches. This is obviously completely new for Mazda. Even the 2015 Miata just had a standard little LCD display stereo. I didn't have anything nice like this nice screen. It is a touch screen if you want it to be. Or you have this nice little controller down here on the bottom. Twist left to right to run through the menus. Click it to go into a menu. It's got, apps, fuel economy stuff, HD radio traffic, Bluetooth, navigation. Your little volume knob is down here. This is the only thing that's kind of awkward. You have a volume knob here. You have to sort of bring your arm back to reach, but there are redundant controls on the steering wheel, so that's not that big of an issue. Storage is a bit tight, as it's always been for a Miata. So we've got a little cubby up front here where I've got the little key to push button start. I've got a little cubby here, and then of course the little glove box cubby back here that's lockable. I have a pair of cup holders that are here in the back of the dash, and they are both removable. So if you remove the passenger side one, there's nowhere to put it, really, except for back in the slot. But you can remove the driver's side one, and there's a secondary slot down in the front, so you can have a closer to reach cup holder if you are the driver. So otherwise, it's just a nice place to kind of sit. The seats are pretty comfy, a nice black cloth with the same matching stitching that's on the rest of everything else. They've done a lot of cool engineering magic to make these seats as light as possible. There is no vertical adjustment on the seat, so the seat sits where it is, but they put the forward back slider on an angle. So the closer you slide forward, the higher the seat gets, and the farther back you go, the lower the seat gets. The thinking is pretty simple. If you need to sit closer, you probably need to sit higher. So just built that angle, saved several pounds out of each seat to do that. Of course, they don't go really far forward or really far back because you hit the bulkhead or you hit the steering wheel. But the most impressive part about this interior is actually the top. This is the slickest operating top I've seen in any convertible. It's even better than the NC. So one single handle here in the middle, flip it, the windows drop slightly, and you just push it back and you pull down and it will click. That's it, you're done. If you want to put it back up, it gets even better. There's a single handle here above the glove box. When you pull it, the roof pops up so you can just grab the handle right there. There's no doing that whole contortionist thing. Handle's right there. Slide it forward, latch the lock, and you're done. But this is a Roadster, so we're going to go ahead and leave the top down. And then we're going to get to how the interior sounds once we actually start driving. So why don't we do that whole driving thing, because that's the best part. So you may think it's a pretty stupid idea to try and do a review with the top down. But back to Mazda having all sorts of weird engineering voodoo and magic. This car is almost quieter with the top down and the windows up than it is with just the top up. So the big thing here is the way the sound is carried. With the top up, it is actually quieter if you measured it, but the wind around the top is very drony and sort of loud, like a loud tire roar, and the cabin feels sort of echoey with the top up. But when you get the top down, there's very little wind intrusion into the cabin. It's just right across the top. I get just a bit right across the top of my hair, but almost nothing across my face. So you get just a bit of that wind feel, and you don't get a lot of the noise that you do when the top is up. So it's really nice and quiet in here, and it's very comfy. Now granted, I'm only going 45 miles an hour, so I'm not going that quickly. But even when you get up to speed, so we'll drop a cog, hear that nice little engine roar. And now we're doing 65, and it is louder in here, but it's not unbearable, and you guys should be able to hear me just fine. We'll ease back down to a more reasonable speed. And let's talk about the real fun part of this car, and that's the way it drives. So up under the front, I have a brand new 2-liter Skyactiv engine that Mazda has pulled straight out of the Mazda 3. It makes about 155 horsepower, which is less than the old car, and it doesn't sound like a lot. But this car is very small, very light, and very efficient in its drivetrain. So what I mean by efficient in its drivetrain is a friend of mine in town owns one of these cars, and he took it to have it dyno tested. He put down 142 horsepower to the wheels. So from the engine to the wheels, he lost like 12 horsepower, 13 horsepower. So you lose almost nothing. And in fact, that same power output at the wheels is about what you got out of the old turbocharged Mazda Speed Miata from 2004 and 2005. So that car had 176 horsepower and only put 140 to the wheels. This has 155 horsepower and puts 140 to the wheels. So it's just as powerful as the way more powerful turbocharged engine when it comes to what hits the wheels, but this weighs like 300 pounds less than that car. In fact, this new chassis is shorter than the original Miata that debuted in 1989, and it weighs about that much. So here we are 26 years later, and Mazda has managed to get back to the same size and weight as the original car, but with tons more horsepower. The result is a car that is extremely quick and satisfying to drive. I've got a great, really light clutch that's easy to modulate, and a really slick shifter that's super easy to use. I've not missed a single throw the entire time I've had it. And the pedals are paced perfectly for a nice throttle whip downshift. So you can hit a lower gear, punch the pedal, rev it all the way up to nearly 7 grand, hit another cog, and just keep going. And then this car, oh, so good, has the optional brake package on it. That brake package consists of huge Brembo brakes up front with vented rotors, and then ultra lightweight 17-inch BBS wheels. So the same kind of wheels you would get on something like a optioned up Subaru STI. So super lightweight wheels, big Brembo brakes up front. This thing is a monster, and I love it. Beyond that, this is also the Club Edition Miata. And with the Club Edition Miata, you get different dampers. So I have Bilstein suspension in this instead of the stock suspension, and I have a limited slip diff. What that means is better handling all the time, everywhere. So the new dampers are not super stiff. You still get a bit of body roll, but the car is flatter than a stock one. And the amount of body roll you get is just perfect to sort of communicate to you what the car is doing without feeling sloppy. So you get just a touch of lean to sort of give you a better idea of how hard you're pushing the car. But it's, like I said, it's not so much that it feels bad. It's just that perfect sort of playfulness in the chassis that you get with these dampers. And because you still have that bit of compliance and that bit of playfulness, when you're driving on a slightly bumpy back highway like this, you're perfectly fine, you're perfectly comfortable. You can lean back, relax, and just enjoy the ride. It's just phenomenal. I think they've got the balance of that sort of handling and comfort just about perfect. Now, to be fair, I do prefer a stiffer ride, so I wouldn't mind having some stiffer springs on this or some, heftier anti-roll bars, but for a standard factory car, this is about as good as you can ask for if you want a toy that's playful. So, beyond that, you've got the steering system. So, steering has always been a very high point for the Miata. Same here. So the steering is extremely well weighted, insanely precise, and it's a very quick rack. It takes almost no motion from the steering wheel to get pretty dramatic changes in how the front wheel turns. But this year does have an electric power steering system. And with the new electric power steering system, you have lost a lot of that feel through the wheel. So all those nice, wonderful vibrations and stuff you used to get through the wheel that told you exactly what the road was made out of, exactly what the front wheels are doing, is kind of gone. But to compensate, the rest of the car does feel very alive. One of the gains of having the simplified seat mount where you just have the slide with no vertical adjustment is the seat is actually much more attached to the chassis. So you get a lot more vibration through the seat. You get a lot of vibration through the pedals. The whole car just sort of wants to talk to you all the time. So you do lose some of the feeling through the wheel, but you get some extra feeling elsewhere to sort of make up for it. And so it kind of evens out in the end. Yes, I'm a huge guy when it comes to steering, and I want... this car's light enough they could have done a manual rack, or at least some sort of hybrid system where you still have a hydraulic system that's powered by an electric pump, something. The pure electric system just takes too much away from the car. This is a great system for being electric power steering, but it's just not enough of what I want. But to be fair, that's really the only bad mark on an otherwise phenomenal car. So, along with this engine, I've got this transmission, and Mazda has done some more interesting stuff here. This car is a 6-speed. There is no overdrive, which is something you don't see in other cars. 6th gear is a direct 1-to-1 ratio drive from the engine to the transmission. So what that does is when you're on the highway in 6th gear, you don't have to downshift to 4th or sometimes 3rd to pass somebody like you used to in the old car. We're doing 55 miles an hour and we're sitting just above $2,000. If you want to pass somebody, you just push the pedal and you instantly get response. The car just sort of wafts away. If you really need to pass somebody going 55, you will have to hit 5th. But once you get up to that 70 mile an hour mark, you're sitting right in the thick of the power band of this motor, and you don't have to do anything. Just hit the pedal and the car will launch away and you can pass whenever you need to. It's fantastic. Part of that, along with the gearing, is the actual power band of this motor. I told you my friend had his dynoed, and looking at the dyno plot is amazing. So your torque curve is basically flat from about $3,000 all the way to 5,500. It's just this beautiful flat line as your horsepower climbs and climbs and climbs. So you always have all the torque you need. You just hit the pedal, the car's like, oh, okay, we're gonna move now. And then that engine makes just this awesome little noise. It's snorty, it's snorty. I'm not sure how well you guys have been able to hear it, but in just a second we're gonna slow down to first. We're gonna make a quick stop, and I'll just launch it coming out of the stop so you guys can really hear that motor sort of flare up and snap and get poppy. I mean, it sounds just awesome. It's a proper little sports car noise. It's not a muscle car noise, it's not a supercar noise, but it is a good sort of roadster sports car noise. So here we go. Also, you'll probably hear the tires bark as we snap into 2nd gear. Oh, great little noise. Like I said, perfect pedal placement for a nice heel toe downshift. Make it through the apex, stand on the throttle, gas it up. Oh. and then hard on the big brakes. Guys, I like this car a lot. It's really good. Really, really, really good. It is hands down, far and away, the greatest Miata that has ever come out of the factory. And to be honest, this is probably the best car I've driven in 2015. I drove a lot of really good cars in 2014, and it's probably some better ones than this, but it's like a handful of machines. As far as this year goes, this is the best thing I've driven so far. I am just fanatically in love with this machine. Best of all, with all this new power and all this new speed and all this new handling, it sips on fuel. It just sips on fuel. I've seen above 40 miles to the gallon. Right now, over the last, well, let's see how many miles I put on this thing. I have put, wow. So I've put 392 miles on this car. And I'm averaging 33 miles to the gallon. 33. Like, that's great. In fact, I'm not even sure what this thing is rated at. I think I've got a window sticker in here that can tell me. Oh, no, no window sticker. I think it's rated like 32 or 33 on the highway, and then something like 26 to 27 in the city. I'll go ahead and leave a little notation so you guys can see what those numbers actually are. But yeah, driving it the way that I've been driving it, which is not gently, I'm seeing 33 miles to the gallon. Blows my mind. That's insanity. And it's like, if you're just doing pure highway driving, that like 65 to 70 mile range, like I said, you can look at 40 miles to the gallon out of this car. Like, that's voodoo. That is just engineering voodoo and witchcraft. I'm not sure how in the hell Mazda managed to make that happen, but they did. And it's amazing, and I love them for it. The only downside to this car is it's a little more expensive than I want it to be. This is obviously not a top trim level because they have the fancy limited one with leather seats and heated seats and all that sort of stuff. But this is the one you should buy. You should buy the Club. You should buy it in this beautiful silver, white, ceramic, metallic paint. And you have to have the braking package with the BBS wheels. So as it sits right here with all the options, navigation, the BBS wheels, the big brakes, it's like $32,500. So not a lot of money for a car with this much performance and this much fun and infinite headroom and the trick top and, like I said, the nice dash and all that sort of stuff. But it's not cheap. You can get a nice FRS for way cheaper than this. I mean, you're closing in on money that you could pay for an STI. You could buy a really nice WRX for this, although don't buy a Subaru because, dear God, just don't buy a Subaru. But for what it is, this is a fantastic car. So right now, my benchmark for a factory car is a 911 Carrera. Just the base Carrera 2. That is probably one of the best cars you can buy from the factory. This gives you 80% of that satisfaction, 80% of that fun, 80% of that feel. But it costs a third of that car. That car was $92,000. This is $32,000. And it is this close to being just as good. Like, it's incredible. No, it doesn't have as much space as a 911. There's not a lot of space in here at all. If you're over 6 feet tall, you're gonna feel cramped in here. That's a thing that is definitely going to happen. But for a normal sized human being living in a normal world, this is all the car you need. And every day you get up to drive to that job you hate, just drop the top and the world gets perfect. If you're having a bad day, go outside and go for a drive and the world gets perfect. When you're in a car like this, that's this good in all the right ways, nothing else matters. The world is just perfect. So, Oh. I'm Christian Moe for AutoTalk.com. This has been a driving review of the all-new 2016 fourth generation Mazda MX-5 Miata. And quite frankly, it's one of the best damn cars you can buy today. I love it. I want it. I think I might actually buy one. So, thank you guys for tuning in. As always, if you like this video, please give us a big thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, give us a big thumbs down. Either way, please leave a comment and let us know what you liked, what you didn't. We want these videos to get better for you, and the only way to do that is with feedback. So thank you guys for tuning in. I love you all so dearly. You've been wonderful people. I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll see you next time. For now, though, I'm going to drop another cog. Go have some fun.